I'm Alex. I'm 27, single, and I live in a small apartment just outside of Seattle. I work in marketing, mostly data analytics and campaign optimization. The kind of stuff most people find boring unless it's tied to money. 2 months ago, I got hired by a mid-sized marketing firm in downtown. It was the first time in my life I felt like maybe I was finally getting somewhere. New job, new city, new apartment, new chances. I'm not the loudest guy in the room. I don't make speeches or dominate meetings. I mostly just observe. I listen. I analyze. And that's probably why it happened the way it did, because I noticed her before she noticed me. Well, maybe she noticed me first. Hard to tell. It was my second day on the job. I was still learning names, navigating the hallways, figuring out how the coffee machine worked without looking clueless. Lunchtime came and I wandered down to the employee cafeteria on the second floor. Modern space, glass walls, tall windows, people in groups of 2 or 3 eating together, scrolling phones, casual talk. I didn't know anyone well enough to join, so I grabbed a sandwich and sat alone at a corner table by the window. And then I saw her. She was standing by the water cooler talking to another woman. She wasn't overly done up or dramatic in how she looked. That's what struck me. She was just composed. Dark green blouse tucked neatly into a gray skirt. Her hair tied back casually, but still polished. There was something about the way she moved like she didn't need anyone's attention, which made it impossible not to look at her. I glanced for a second, then again unintentionally. I told myself to stop, but my eyes kept drifting back. Not in a creepy way. I was just curious. She looked like someone who had stories, someone who'd lived through things. She had a calmness about her, like she'd seen storms and survived. She was probably in her mid-30s, but she didn't look tired or bitter like people who've worked in corporate for too long. She looked sharp, focused, alive. At one point, she looked in my direction. I looked away too late, caught. I reached for my cup, tried to act natural. I hoped she hadn't really seen me staring, but she did. She walked toward the vending machine, which happened to be right by my table. As she passed me, she slowed down just slightly, leaned toward my side, looked straight at me, and with the softest smirk said, "If you keep staring, at least say something." I froze. Legitimately froze. I looked up at her, trying to think of something witty, something confident, something not idiotic. So, naturally, I said the dumbest thing possible. Sorry, I didn't mean to. You just look familiar." She laughed, not loudly, not mockingly, the kind of laugh people give when they see straight through your cover. "No," she said. "I don't think we've met." I blinked. "You're right, we haven't. I'm Alex. I'm new here." She nodded. "Emma, I'm not." And that was it. She took a bottle of water from the vending machine, gave me a polite smile, and walked back to her table. For the next 20 minutes, I couldn't even finish my sandwich. My mind kept replaying what happened to her voice. That calm confidence, that little smile, the way she said it, not embarrassed, not annoyed, just honest, amused, as if she had a full control of the moment, and I was just one beat behind. It wasn't flirting, at least I don't think it was. It was more like awareness. After lunch, I went back to my desk. My supervisor gave me another stack of onboarding documents to read, but I couldn't focus. I kept hearing her voice. "If you keep staring." That evening when I got back to my apartment, I thought about her again. I didn't even know her last name. I didn't know where she worked exactly in the building or if I'd even see her again, but I knew something had just shifted. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I read too much into it, but it felt like the beginning of something. Something I didn't expect. The next few days at work were uneventful, at least on the surface. I kept my head down, tried to settle into the rhythm of my new team, and focused on the endless to-do list that came with onboarding. But underneath, I was waiting for her. Every time I walked past the elevator or into the cafeteria, I looked around, hoping to spot her again. I didn't even know which department she worked in, but I figured if fate had something to say, it would let our paths cross again. And it did. It was Friday afternoon. The office was buzzing more than usual. End-of-week meetings, people sneaking out early, that kind of energy. I was headed to the copy room with a stack of draft proposals when I heard her voice down the hallway. Calm, smooth, confident, unmistakable. She was talking to a couple of people from the creative team giving feedback on a campaign. She wasn't dominating the conversation, but everyone was listening. When she spoke, people shut up. There was weight in her words. I didn't want to interrupt, so I walked past with a nod and a quick glance. I didn't expect her to notice me, but she did. As I passed, she smiled and said, "Hey Alex, right?" I turned surprised. "Yeah, you settling in okay?" "I think so," I said, still figuring out where the best coffee is. She gave a little shrug. "Nowhere in this building." That made me laugh. Damn, I had hope. One of the guys she was talking to, a guy named Derek, tall mid-40s, with that permanent smug face people get when they've been around too long, raised his eyebrow at me, clearly not thrilled. I was interrupting whatever was going on. I didn't care. I was just glad she remembered my name. We only talked for maybe a minute before her team moved on, but it felt like something, a small thread connecting us again. Later that day, I was standing by the elevator and the doors open. She was in sight alone. I hesitated, but she smiled, so I stepped in. We stood in silence for a few seconds. Then I said it quietly. "Look, I know we barely know each other, but if you ever want to grab a coffee after work, I'd really like that." She didn't look shocked or annoyed. She just took a breath, then said, "You're sweet, Alex." "Really? But I don't date coworkers. It never ends well." My heart sank a little, but I nodded. "Totally fair. Sorry if I had crossed the line." She looked over at me, softened. "You didn't. I just learned that lesson the hard way." And then, ding. The elevator stopped on her floor. She stepped out, paused for half a second, and added, "Especially younger ones." And she walked off. That line stuck with me. Especially younger ones. It wasn't rude. It wasn't cold. It was just honest. Part of me respected her for saying it straight. Another part of me felt small, like I was just some kid chasing a grown woman who'd already played this game and moved on. The following week, I tried to let it go, tried to focus, but our paths kept crossing at team meetings and shared workspaces in passing. And every time there was something in the air, like both of us felt it, even if we weren't acknowledging it. One afternoon, we ended up assigned to the same cross-functional group for a mid-year campaign. She was handling creative direction. I was on analytics. We sat at the same table, talked in the same meetings, debated data points and taglines. She kept it professional, but there was a tension, the kind you can't fake or force. A few days into the project, we were in a brainstorming session. I cracked a quiet joke under my breath when someone suggested something ridiculous. She smirked. No one else heard it, but she did. That half-second look between us said more than any meeting notes ever could. But not everyone missed it. That guy Derek, the smug one, he saw it and he didn't like it. I later found out through office whispers that he and Emma had been involved a couple of years ago. It ended badly, apparently. Since then, he made it his mission to protect a reputation, or maybe just his ego. That Friday, I heard him talking to another guy near the break room. Looks like the new guy's got a crush. Shame. He doesn't know how it works around here. I didn't say anything. I wasn't gonna play that game, but I knew what he was doing. He was watching me, watching her, waiting for a chance to stir things up. I hated office politics. I hated feeling like high school games had followed me into adulthood. But I also knew that pushing forward, pursuing Emma could mean real consequences for her more than me. And yet, I couldn't help it. I liked her more than liked her. I admired her. The way she carried herself, the way she handled pressure, the way she looked at people like she saw straight through them and still chose to be kind. Still, I backed off, not out of fear, but out of respect. The last thing I wanted was to make her life harder. We kept working together, cordial, distant, controlled. But every time we made eye contact, it felt like something inside both of us flinched, like we were trying not to want the same thing. By week 4, things had settled into a quiet rhythm. Work was work. Emma and I interacted only when necessary, as short conversations about data sets, creative directions, or deadlines. Always professional, always careful, and always a little strained. It wasn't awkward exactly, just delicate, like we were walking across thin ice. She kept her tone even, her posture straight, her words precise, but I could tell she wasn't as distant as she wanted to appear. Neither was I. At night, I'd catch myself thinking about her. Not in some grand romantic way, just remembering things, her phrasing in meetings, her small reactions, when she disagreed with a decision, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. I knew it wasn't smart to keep thinking about her, but I couldn't stop. It didn't help that we were still on the same campaign project. We had different roles, but we were both core members. I was pulling analytics from social media trends and user data. She was shaping the messaging around those trends. That Friday, the creative director scheduled a last-minute working session to finalize everything for the Monday presentation. The meeting was supposed to last an hour. It ran past 5, then 6 room. By 6:30, everyone else had left except Emma and me. I didn't plan to stay late. I never do. But I wasn't going to leave her finishing things alone. We sat across from each other in the smaller 4th-floor conference room, the one with the bad fluorescent lights and the flickering monitor. The office was almost silent except for the low hum of air vents and the occasional sound of someone's keyboard from another room. She leaned over the table reading my notes on performance metrics. I watched her for a second longer than I should have, then dropped my eyes. "Something wrong with the data?" I asked. "No," she said. "It's solid. Just trying to make sure the language we use doesn't misrepresent the numbers." There was a long pause. Then she added, "You are good at what you do." I looked up. "Thanks. Coming from you, that means something." She glanced at me. There was something in her eyes. Not soft, not flirty, just honest. Real. "Can I ask you something?" I said. She didn't answer right away, just nodded slightly. "Why does it feel like we're avoiding something that's already there?" She closed her laptop slowly and leaned back in her chair. Her body didn't tense, but her expression changed like I touched something she was working hard to ignore. Because she said, "I've done this before. Fallen for someone at work. Let someone in at work. In this environment, in this system where everyone knows everyone's business, where if it ends badly, you see it every day in the elevator, in the cafeteria, in meeting invites." She took a breath. "I got burned. Alex, badly. And it took me over a year to feel like myself again. People didn't just talk. They chose sides. I lost friends. I lost credibility. It almost wrecked me. I didn't say anything. I just listened. And you," she added quietly, "you make it hard to keep my distance." The room felt still after that. Not romantic, not dramatic, just still. Like we were both finally being honest. And neither of us knew what to do with it. I looked down at my hands, then back up. "I don't want to cause trouble. I'm not trying to complicate your life." "You're not," she said. "But this thing, whatever it is, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has weight and consequences." There was silence between us again, but this time it felt heavier, fuller, like a truth had landed between us and was just sitting there daring either of us to act. I didn't touch her. I didn't lean closer. I just said, "Then what do we do?" She looked at me with tired eyes, not from the day, but from years of building up walls, putting herself back together, surviving things I didn't even know she'd been through. "I don't know," she said. "But right now, we finished the damn report." She opened her laptop again. The conversation ended just like that. And maybe that's what made it stick with me, the realness of it. No fantasy, no perfect lines, no sudden kiss. Just two adults trying to be responsible with something that didn't feel responsible at all. We wrapped up around 8 p.m. As we walked toward the elevator, she didn't say anything else, just pressed the button, stepped inside, and nodded slightly when I said goodnight. The doors closed, and I was left standing there equal parts calm and completely torn up inside. The next morning, everything changed. I came in a little late. Saturday was optional, but I had numbers to review before Monday's pitch. My badge wouldn't scan at the 5th-floor entrance. When I finally got in through another way, my desk had been reassigned. I was confused. No email, no heads up. 10 minutes later, HR called me in. They said they were redistributing talent to better align resources. It sounded like corporate fluff, but I knew exactly what was going on. Someone said something. Someone saw something. Someone made it political. And just like that, I was pulled from the campaign project, reassigned to a completely different department. Emma wasn't in the office that day, but I didn't need her to be. I knew exactly what this meant. Derek had done what he came to do, and maybe both of us had to deal with the fallout. I didn't hear from her for 10 days, 10 whole days of silence. Not in the literal sense. We still crossed paths. Occasionally in the building, a nod here, a distant look there. She passed by the elevator once when I was inside and we made eye contact, but neither of us said a word. It wasn't anger or resentment. It was just quiet, heavy, like both of us knew we'd stepped over a line and someone else decided we had to pay for it. I had officially been reassigned to the Insights team 2 floors below Emma's department. My tasks were now centered around post-campaign analysis and sales funnel evaluations. Important work, yes, but far from the creative side of the company and light years away from anything that involved her. At first, I tried to bury myself in the job, drown the frustration with productivity. But that only worked for so long. Every file I opened, every Slack notification that popped up with her name in some comment thread, every passing conversation between coworkers mentioning her name, it all made it worse. I started getting bitter. Not at her, never at her, but at the situation, at how fast something meaningful got pushed into a corner because people couldn't keep their noses out of things that weren't theirs because of office politics. Because of a history I hadn't even been a part of. Then came a night she called me. It was a Wednesday. I had just finished dinner, some frozen pizza I didn't even bother to plate. My apartment was dark except for the blue light of the TV I wasn't watching. I was scrolling through emails when my phone lit up. Emma, 7:43 p.m. I stared at it for a second, not sure if I should answer. Then I picked up. Hey, I said quietly. Hi, she replied. There was a pause, not awkward, just filled with all the things we hadn't said in 10 days. I'm sorry, she said, for how everything played out. It wasn't your fault, I said. You didn't ask for this. I didn't stop it either, she admitted. I didn't know what to say to that. She exhaled. I've been thinking about everything about us. If there even isn't us. I didn't mean for you to get pushed out of the project. I know. I thought I could handle it better, she continued. But it's like the second there's a whisper of something between me and someone else, people go feral, and I hate it. I do too, I said. But I don't regret anything. She went quiet for a second. I miss talking to you, she said finally. I miss you. I answered honestly. Another pause. Are you free right now? She asked. That caught me off guard. Yeah, I am. Do you want to go for a walk? I didn't hesitate. Yes. 20 minutes later, we met at a quiet park 3 blocks from the office. It was almost empty, just a few dog walkers and someone jogging in the distance. The air was cool. The sky was beginning to turn dark blue. We didn't hug, didn't shake hands, just started walking side by side slowly as if we had done it 100 times before. For the first 10 minutes, we talked about nothing. Weather, work, city noise. But then the conversation settled into something deeper. She told me more about her last relationship, how it started with excitement like every office romance, how it turned toxic fast, how Derek, him, made her feel small, how he gaslit her in meetings, how he'd accuse her of being too emotional in front of other team members. How when it ended, he made it look like she was the one who overstepped. It took me a year to rebuild my reputation, she said, looking out at the lake. And just when I finally started to feel like me again, you happened. Sorry, I offered, half smiling. She actually smiled at that. A soft, sad kind of smile. No, not sorry. We sat on a bench near the water, just letting the silence breathe for a while. I don't know what I'm doing, she said. I like you more than I should. And it scares me. I get that, I said. But this thing, whatever it is, it feels real, doesn't it? She nodded slowly, carefully. I just want something simple, she said. No drama, no hiding, no whispers in hallways. So, let's take it slow, I offered. No pressure, no expectations. She looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, I saw her guard drop. I'd like that. She reached over, hesitated, and then took my hand. No kiss, no grand declaration, just 2 people sitting side by side in the quiet of a city park, holding hands like they were both afraid to let go. We talked for 2 more hours about where we grew up, our worst dates, our favorite movies, her mom's obsession with gardening, my inability to cook anything more complex than scrambled eggs, stupid things, wonderful things, things that had nothing to do with HR policies or office rumors. When I finally walked her back to her car, She stood by the door for a second. "I don't know what happens next," she said. "Me neither," I replied. "But I know I'm not going anywhere." She smiled again, different this time. Not sad, not guarded, just real. And she got in her car and drove off. And I stood there for a while, hands in my pockets, watching her taillights disappear down the street. It wasn't a perfect beginning, but it felt like one. It's been 8 months since that night in the park. 8 months since she took my hand and didn't let go. A lot has changed. After that evening, we didn't rush into anything. We stayed cautious, careful. We'd meet outside of work dinners, long walks, weekends, where we talk about everything except the place we both spent 40 hours a week inside. It was slow, purposeful, honest. For the first few weeks, we didn't even kiss, and somehow that made it feel more real. But eventually, it became something we couldn't and didn't want to keep undefined. She said one night over takeout, sitting cross-legged on my living room floor, her hair still wet from the rain outside, "I don't want to keep pretending this isn't important." And that was that. We were a couple privately at first just for us, but private doesn't last forever in a company like ours. 2 months into our relationship, someone in the office saw us grabbing lunch downtown, someone who apparently had more time to gossip than to do actual work. The rumors restarted. Whispers came back. Derek, unsurprisingly, was thrilled to drop hints in meetings, smugly tossing lines like, "Oh, I'm sure Emma would know. She's got a special connection to Alex." But this time, she didn't flinch. She didn't hide. She confronted it. She went directly to HR, sat across from the same woman who had once warned her to be cautious, and told her point blank, "I'm in a relationship with Alex. We are 2 consenting adults. There's no power imbalance and we're handling it professionally. I'm not asking for permission. I'm informing you." HR couldn't say much. There were no company policies against it. We worked in different departments, different projects, no supervisory overlap. Still, we both knew what would make things easier, me moving to a different division. So I did. 3 months ago, I officially transferred to a separate branch of the company. Same firm, different building. It wasn't dramatic. I actually liked the new team. The projects were different, more strategic. Felt like growth. And with that change, things between us began to feel lighter. No more careful glances in elevators. No more late-night phone calls to check if anyone noticed. We could breathe. That's when we began telling people friends first. A few former coworkers, her sister. Eventually, I met her parents over grilled salmon and white wine at a quiet dinner in Tacoma. They were kind, smart, protective of her. Her mom gave me a long hug as we left. Her dad just looked me in the eye and said, "Don't screw it up." "I won't. Emma. She's everything I didn't know I needed. She challenges me every single day, not in a dramatic, chaotic way, but in the way that makes you grow, the way that holds up a mirror and says, 'This is who you are and who you could become.'" She has her guard up sometimes. Still, trust doesn't come easy after what she's been through. But she lets me in piece by piece, and I never take that for granted. We've had arguments, of course we have, over little things, laundry plans, timing. Once we had a full-day Cold War, over who left the freezer door open. But we always talk. We always come back to center. Last weekend, we went hiking outside the city, just the 2 of us, some sandwiches, and her awful Spotify playlist, which she refuses to admit is 90% sad acoustic covers. Halfway up the trail, she tripped on a route and nearly face-planted. Caught her. She laughed so hard she couldn't breathe. That's the kind of stuff I'll remember when I'm 80. The moments no one sees. And here's the part that makes me smile. Smile the most. We're not flashy. We're not some storybook couple. We're 2 people who met at work, started with a look, went through hell, and decided to try anyway. That's all love really is, isn't it? 2 people saying, "Let's try," and then trying again and again every day. Tonight, we're going back to the place where it all began, the office cafeteria. It's empty on weekends, but she got the building manager to unlock it for us as a surprise. When I walk in, she's already there sitting at the same table by the window where I sat that first day. She's wearing a dark green blouse again. Her hair is tied back the same way. I stop in my tracks. She looks up, sees me, and smirks. That same smirk I'll never forget. "Still staring," she says. I walk over, lean across the table and smile. Still in love? She reaches for my hand. No words this time. Just the quiet, certain feeling that this is it. Not the end, not the middle, just the real. Alex and Emma's story. It offers a profound lesson. Love worth having often demands courage to navigate complexity and resilience to rise above external judgment. Their connection, sparked by a fleeting glance in a corporate cafeteria, grew amidst the weight of office politics, past betrayals, and unspoken fears. Alex's quiet admiration and Emma's guarded heart reveal that meaningful relationships don't always begin with grand gestures, but with honest moments, shared smirks, late-night work sessions, and brave confessions in a park. Their journey teaches us that love isn't immune to obstacles. It thrives when two people choose to face them together, even when it means risking professional fallout or personal scars. Emma's strength in confronting HR and Alex's willingness to transfer departments show that protecting what matters requires sacrifice and clarity. Their slow, deliberate romance built on walks, talks, and trust reminds us that real love is patient, rooted in respect, and unafraid of imperfection. It's a call to embrace connections that challenge us, to grow, to let go of fear, and to hold fast to what feels true, no matter the whispers or consequences. Alex and Emma's story is a testament to the beauty of trying day after day to build something real in a world that often complicates love. Have you ever fought for a connection against the odds? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear what made you keep trying. If this tale of courage and love moved you, hit that subscribe button and join our community for more stories that inspire. Let's keep celebrating the messy, beautiful truth of human connection.